Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. In this video, I'm going to show you how we can export the Entra ID configurations, right? So Entra ID has lot many things to do and lot many things to offer, right? So have you used any tools or any other method, any way, right, to export all the Entra ID capabilities or Entra ID configurations that we have done so far, right? And that is what I'm going to show you in this video, how we can export the Entra configurations and how that configurations can be used as an for future requirements when we wanted to restore it back to the Entra tenant, right? And that the same configuration can be used, modified, and can be changed as per the needs and requirements, right? So this tool that I'm going to show you is a kind of a tool, or it's a great way to export the Entra configurations from the Entra tenant, right? And then from there, we can simply make a copy of all that configurations, a kind of backup of that configurations, and store it somewhere as a backup for future reference, future usage. And as we all know, there might be situations when we need or when we might need to use those configurations, because if there is something wrong in the tenant, or when there is a situation where we have to accommodate or containment the whole tenant, right, because of security reasons, then this is something we have to restore the tenant back to the original configurations and turn on the operations back as soon as possible, right? So those are the scenarios where we wanted to take a backup of whole configurations and then make sure we have operations up and running, because business cannot wait, and no one cannot wait for the systems and everything, because as soon as people are working, then we should have systems up and running, and those are available for the organizations too as well, right? So let's jump onto the PowerShell, and I'm going to show you how we can install it from the scratch, and then how we can connect it to, and then start executing the commandlets, right? So by executing those commandlets, we can definitely export the different types of configurations, right? And that configurations is going to be something we wanted to use it for future reference, and then we would be using it like if we wanted to use it something like maybe unwanted situations, right? So definitely that's going to help in that case as well, right? So definitely I'm going to show you how we can export it, and then how we can leverage it for future references as well, right? So let's go ahead and do that, right? So let me share my screen here quickly, and I'm going to show you. All right. So this is the Zoom application. Okay. So before that, I wanted to show you something about this capability, right? And there are certain features or certain configurations that we can export from this tool. And here you can see that there is one of the module, which is Entra Exporter, right? And this module can be installed, and then we can connect it to it, and then provide the credentials. And definitely here you can see that I have collected certain of the permissions, and it needs to be connected using Microsoft Graph, right? So all those permissions are something where we need to grant the consent as a global administrator, and then only it is going to provide us exportable capability with all of these capabilities, right? So let's say you can see that there are a bunch of permissions that we are trying and we are granting, right? Let's say if I wanted to grant only directory.read.all level permissions, then I can do that, and I don't want you to do any other permissions. Then I can only read and export data at directory level, but I cannot do on the policy level or identity provider level or organization read level. So that is why these are the permissions that we can grant. So these permissions are depending on our need and requirement. It is not necessary or it is not mandatory to grant access or consent to all these permissions at one go. And it is something depends on the needs and requirement. But I'm going to grant for all these permissions and show you some of the examples which are listed over here, right? So all of these are the different scenarios for different use cases. Let's say I wanted to get an application registration details using this portal or this module, and then I can, or I need permissions that is granted already, and then it is going to allow me to export all those applications, right? So this way it is going to be helpful for me to and easy for as well. Let's say this is that permission where application.read.all. So it is going to allow me to export all the applications registered within Entra, right? So these are the different scenarios or use cases we can say, and those can be used for different reasons. Let's say get the details of PIM settings with Entra Exporter. So if I wanted to export the PIM settings that we have configured in the tenant, then we should have permissions granted before that as well. Let's say privileged read into Azure AD and Azure resources as well on the privileged identity management, right? So that is why those are the permissions that we need to grant. So let's go ahead and do that. And I'm going to simply open a PowerShell here and let me change the path because I'm going to store all those reports in this particular folder. Here you can see in the D. And let me clear the screen and we can start installing this module, right? So let's copy it. Let's go ahead and install here. So now to install it, it might take few minutes or few seconds as well because it totally depends on the existing commandlets as well as the existing configurations that we have on the PowerShell, right? So here you can see it has asked for the permissions. So I have put A as yes to all commandlets, right? And then it is going to identify those commands which are available, which are not, and then it is going to install those commands one by one, and then it is going to complete the installation package, right? So here you can see there was a, all right, since it is completed, so we can just simply TLS, clear the screen, and now it is recommended if in case we wanted to export all the different scenarios or all of these use cases from the Entra, then we should have these permissions already granted. So I'm going to do that first before connecting to the Entra Explorer. And then I'm going to hit enter here. So let's say I have pressed the enter button. Now it is going to redirect and connect it. So it's going to simply connect it to the portal, or it's going to ask me to grant the consent because I have not granted consent to all of those permissions, and that is why it is going to ask me to do that, right? So that is why here you can see it has asked for all those permissions, and I have to, or I'm going to accept that consent, and that is done. So once it is done, here you can see that it has granted and it says that connected via delegated access using this, right? And then it has given the appropriate message as well, right? So now it is connected. We will simply CLS and then we are done here. So next we have this commandlets where we need to connect it to this browser here, which is Entra connect dash Entra Exporter, and then enter it. So now again, we need to authenticate with that account where it has admin permissions and it is trying to verify those consents. All right, it is connected now. And here you can see that it has, or it got the consent as well with all these scoped permissions that we have already granted, right? And even if it was not, then it is going to ask for those consents. All right. So now we have granted, and now let's look at those reports where, or those capabilities where we wanted to export. Let's say I wanted to export Entra Exporter or yeah, I wanted to export service principal information, then I can simply go ahead and do that. So here are those command lists, right? So on the first scenario here, you can see that either I can use this one or I can use this one for all, right? So instead of that, I will use all. So I'll simply copy this path and I will give that path over here, right? And let's go ahead and try it. Copy this commandlet and then go to portal or okay. So we can go ahead back and let me share that screen again. So perfect. So from here we can simply start exporting. It says that organization and organization dot JSON. Now it is trying to gather all the details and then it's going to try exporting everything, right? So let's see how much time it takes and then we should be able to get the details. Meantime, it is going to also check and validate whether it has the appropriate commandlets, and then it is going to check and find what is there, what is available for it, and then it is going to simply not it, nothing in there so far. So probably it is going to simply uh, take a bit of time because we have put all, that means it has to gather the details from there and then it has to export everything, right? So meantime, we can go back to the actual other commands where we can export on a specific level. Let's say I wanted to export users to the JSON files, right? So here is the commandlets that we can do, which is export dash entra, then path of that folder where we wanted to export it, and then type what type of content we wanted to export. That's the user, right? So similarly, you can see that these are the different scenarios from the 1 till 11. Let's say backup specific Entra ID settings and objects with the Entra. So we need to specify that objects or specific settings. Similarly, service principals, applications, roles, SKUs, and then policies, then users, groups, and conditional access along with PIM, right? So this is something which we can export, right? Okay, it has given an error saying that Entra ID, okay, this is API beta slash identity. Seems there is an error on this beta commandlet, and that is why it did not identify successfully. But here you can see that subscribed SKUs and directory roles. So it is trying to export all of that stuff. So let's go back to the perfect. So here you can see we have got few folders. Let's say, let's get into the directory. We have one JSON file, right? So this file would have some of the configurations. Similarly, on the directory roles, we have different roles and then folders, and each role has its JSON file format with all the permissions and all of the configurations with it, right? Then let's go back to the domains. So here you can see there are different domains available in the tenant. So it has exported all those domains and the configuration of that as well. And let's go back one step, organization. So here you can see certificates based auth configuration, then organization level, then branding. So branding has localization if we have configured that as well. So that's going to be exported, and subscribed SKUs. So here it is going to give us the subscribed SKUs, including the license plans. and those license plans would also be part of this one as well. So you can see that it is executing, and there was error here that was on the API, because definitely this is a part of graph APIs. So it's going to either be failing at one point, or it is going to be excluding, or it is simply not work, because if it does not have the appropriate API endpoints to connect and export that details, then it is going to fail it out. Right. So for now, I will just stop this and we will try others. Let's say we wanted to export users instead of exporting everything, right? So let's go ahead and before that, I will change this folder path where we wanted to export users, right? And then we should be good to go ahead and export it. Let me copy this command, let go here, paste it, and run. So now it is trying to identify users, and then it is going to take few minutes to execute that one. And then once it is executed, it is going to simply collect all the details in a one file, and that file is going to be exported in the given folder path, right? So we can go ahead and see that probably it is going to take some time, but it is going to be definitely exporting all of that stuff. Here you can see that it has, or when these folders were created, and then the date and time with that as well. So probably it is going to take a bit, and let's see. The previous API, it failed because you saw that there was error on the API endpoint, right, which was not appropriately accessible, and we need to go ahead and either change something or make something there. All right, so here we can see that it has successfully exported on the user data. So let's say go ahead back to the folder, and here's the users folder. And here we can see all the users folders with their respective user ID, or we can say the object ID, and this is the JSON file. Now, if I wanted to open up this JSON file, I can open it either with Visual Studio, or I can select any of these applications available. I'll simply open it in Notepad because that's easy and pretty straightforward. So from here, you can see that this is the JSON file where it has all the details of the user account, right? And then we can go ahead and look into it, and maybe if we wanted to make changes, we can make those changes, and those changes can be saved and restored next time when we wanted to export, not export, the restore the user accounts in another tenant or in the same tenant as well, right? So this way, this exported data is going to be savior in many different scenarios and many different requirements. And one thing to note here is that when you have big tenant, and when there are so many users, maybe thousands and more than lakhs, so right, so in that case it is going to take time to export each of those different capabilities, because it has to run that script regularly, as in maybe we can schedule the script on a particular days of the week or particular time of the week, and then let that script work in the backend, and then we can take that backup as a part of backup activity for our organization, right? So this way, definitely we can use these scripts and use and make use of this. So this is something I wanted to show you and use how you can use it, right? Let's say I will go ahead and export the conditional access policies and show you that as well. So let's copy this one and identity conditional, and then access policies. So this is going to be the path from where we are going to export those conditional access policies from the Entra portal, from Entra tenant, basically. And it's going to create a folder, same as user folder, and then it is going to export all those permissions or conditional access policies there, right? So let's see, let's go back and see if it has created nothing yet. Probably it is going to do the same for this folder as well, this export as well, and then it's going to allow us to export it, right? So yeah, let's see how much time we have to wait, and probably it's going to take few minutes. So definitely these are the different capabilities that we can leverage and use, right, with the different scenarios and as a part of our backup solution of the Entra configurations, as that's going to be very critical. And if something goes wrong and when we wanted to restore it back, right, and we don't have that backup taken ever, that means we lost a lot of configurations, and then it is not easy to rebuild everything from scratch, right? Because if we don't have the backup solution or backup for this, then it's going to do, or it's going to break so many things across the organization, right? Perfect. So since it has completed the process, and let's go back. Let's see. Okay, here's the identity folder, and then conditional, and then access policies. And all right, so here we have all the conditional access policies exported. So let's say I will go to the first one, and this is the conditional access policy. Let's say I wanted to open it up with Notepad. All right. So here you can see that display name. All right. I think there was some disconnect. Let me share the screen again. And all right. So this is the conditional access policy which we have exported, and here you can see the display name of the conditional access policy, right? And we can go ahead and look into the configurations that we have made, right? So what are the excluded groups, included groups, and then all other configurations, right? So let's say grant control operator or built-in controls, it's set to MFA, right? And then we have not set terms of use, then custom authentication factors, right? And then we can go back at the top. There's one of the identity excluded and included all the identities, right? So this way we can go ahead and look into the policies and make the changes, and we can deploy. Let's say here's the policy I wanted to deploy, which is user risk levels, high and medium, sign-in risk levels, low, medium, high. And then I have selected client app types, which includes mobile and browser applications. Those are the modern authentication or modern authenticated applications, right? And then here you can see the state of the policy, right? So this policy is something which is set to report only mode, and it's not enforced at all, right? So this way we can definitely go ahead and look into the policies and make the appropriate changes if in case we want. And those policies can be leveraged for restore back to the tenant, right? So yeah, that is all I wanted to show you in this video. And definitely there are all different scenarios, including PIM settings, and then conditional access, then users and policies and groups and SKUs, right? And roles, applications, service principles, and everything, right? So definitely if I have to go through all of these steps, then definitely it's going to take a longer time, and video is going to be longer, but definitely uh, this is something which is pretty straightforward and great way to export and take a backup of all the configurations of Entra, and then we can leverage it for all other future references and future use cases, right? So yeah, that's all for this video I wanted to show you and talk about. And let me know if you have used this before. If you have exported any of such configurations from Entra and from any other workloads across Microsoft 365, and what are your experiences that you have done, right? And if you have done any of those before, let me know if you face any issue, challenges, and anything that you wanted to share. And it would be good to share it with people and community and everyone, right? And yeah, that's all for this video. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with your friends, colleagues, and people around you so that people can learn and explore more things around this capability, right? So yeah, also do watch other videos around Microsoft 365, Azure, FinOps, and Entra ID as well, right? So yeah, that's all for this video. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.